We called for help. Humans gave us warships, innovation, and a betrayal. The distress call was a whisper in the dark. By the time it reached the Aurelia, it was already faint, fragmented, as if the universe itself wanted to bury it. Captain Alia Thorne leaned forward in her command chair, black hair tied tight against her collar, eyes narrowing at the hollow crackle echoing across the bridge. Her crew froze. The words were broken, but the desperation inside them was unmistakable. A planet under siege. Voices cut short mid-plea. Origin point? Alia asked. Her voice was clipped, calm, the tone of someone trained never to let doubt show. The comms officer frowned. Cervix 9, Captain. Rough coordinates. Long-range relay. Signals weak. Cervix 9. A name no one wanted to hear. Rumors had spread through the fleet about Xenos fleets sweeping across that sector like wildfire, leaving only glassed ruins. Alia stood, her uniform deep gray with the insignia of Earth's Vanguard Corps, looked immaculate even under the harsh bridge lights. Her figure was athletic, all movement precise, like she was carved for command. Plot a course, she said. We answer the call. The Aurelia moved. A spear of steel and fire, she cut through the void with engines burning blue. Alia watched the stars smear across the viewport, but her mind was already ahead. Cervix 9. Invasion. Civilians in panic. She knew what waited. Chaos and choices that would haunt her. The attack came sooner. The first shot lanced out of the black, slamming into the Aurelia's flank. The deck shuddered beneath her boots, lights flickering. Sirens wailed, the voice of the ship screaming. "Contacts, multiple, bearing 312, shouted Tactical. On the display, red icons bloomed. Xenos Raiders. Not warships, but fast attack craft, like carrion birds that smelled weakness. Alia's hand snapped up. Evasive burn, full shields, return fire. The bridge erupted with action. Orders barked, systems screamed, hull groaned. Plasma fire cut through space, Aurelia answering with her own. For a moment the void was nothing but light and fury. She kept her gaze on the tactical overlay. Steady, she murmured, almost to herself. The Aurelia could handle raiders. She'd fought worse. But then another hit. This one is deeper. The ship jolted. Engine 2 offline. Engineering's voice cracked across the channel. Smoke curled from the panels. Sparks hissed. Alia's jaw tightened. She smelled the ozone burn of fried circuits, felt the bridge vibrate with wounded machinery. They wouldn't make Cervix 9 with a crippled drive. And she hated it, but she already knew what had to come next. Near a safe harbor? Silence. Then the navigator answered, voice grim. Halcyon Station, Captain. A refit dock. 3 hours at sublight. Off the main lanes. Halcyon. A half-forgotten outpost. More legend than functioning hub. Volunteers, old tech. Scraps of a once-glorious network. Not the place you trusted to patch a warship, but the only place left. Alia nodded. Helm, set course. Get us there alive. Hours later, Aurelia limped into the shadow of Halcyon. The station looked wrong. A broken wheel hanging against the stars. Lights flickering like dying candles. Its docking arms were crooked, patched with mismatched alloys. A monument to survival, not glory. Ugly little rock, Reese Carter muttered from his station, fingers dancing over engineering readouts. His tone carried the usual humor, the kind meant to break the tension. But even he didn't smile this time. Alia spared him a glance. Reese was older, lines creased at the corners of his mouth from years of smirking at impossible situations. He was good, one of the best mechanics alive, and he knew it. She let the comment pass. The docking clamps seized Aurelia with a groan that echoed through the hull. Captain, the comm crackled, Halcyon welcomes you. Dockmaster Jansen speaking. You look like hell out there. Alia pressed the comm switch. Appreciate the observation. We need full repairs fast. There was a pause, then a voice, dry, carrying weight. We'll see what we can do. Bring your people. The airlock hissed open. The smell hit first, metal, grease, recycled air stretched too thin. The station's corridors were narrow, patched with rivets, their walls scrawled with layers of maintenance notes. Halcyon felt alive, but barely, like an old soldier refusing to die. Dockmaster Arik Jansen waited. Broad shoulders, square jaw, oil stains smeared across a heavy tech coat. His expression was measured, as if he was always calculating what to trust, what to fix, what to abandon. "You're the Vanguard's finest, huh?" Arik said, gaze sweeping over Alia's crew. "Finest still flying?" Alia answered, meeting his stare. He cracked the barest grin, then turned. "Follow. We'll get your beast breathing again. But you should know, this station runs on volunteers. We do what we can with what we have." Behind him, a smaller figure darted to keep pace. Lila Spark, quick steps, blonde hair tied back under a visor. She carried a data pad stacked with schematics. Her eyes flicked up, sharp and curious, then down again, too fast to be casual. Reese leaned closer to whisper at Alia's side. "She looks like she knows more than half my crew. Dangerous." Alia didn't answer. She was too busy cataloging every shadow, every welded scar on the walls, every eye watching them from half-lit corners. Halcyon wasn't safe. Not truly, but it was she later for now. Later, in the dim light of the station's mess, Alia stood with a cup of recycled water in her hand, listening. The volunteers spoke in low voices about Cervix 9, rumors of firestorms, of civilians herded into camps, of Xenos war machines digging into the crust itself. Her crew leaned in. The words spread like infection, fear, anger, and doubt. Alia let them. She wanted them to hear. She wanted them to remember why the Aurelia flew in the first place. But even as she stood there, spine straight, her hand tightened around the cup. Because beneath the rumors, she heard something else, a note of warning. Someone here knew more than they should, and if that was true, then the Aurelia hadn't just docked at a broken station. She'd walked into a trap. Author's note, because I can't help myself. This is where Scalzi would grin, toss in a line like, "And that's when the fun really started," and then barrel forward. I admit, there's a thrill in throwing a perfectly competent captain straight into a mess where her ship is broken, her crew is wary, and her so-called allies might already be sharpening knives. And yes, this is only the first part. We're just pulling the pin. Halcyon did not welcome them so much as tolerate them. The station hummed with old power cores and older habits. Arik walked fast through a hatch stamped with faded caution stripes. Lila shadowed him with a slate of diagnostics that kept flashing red. Alia matched their pace without hurry. She read the station the way she read a battle map. Some cameras did not rotate. Some vents whistled like they hit a draft. There were doors repaired with mismatched bolts. Everything here worked because someone made it work each day. In the Aurelia engine bay, the damage was obvious. Conduit 3 had ruptured. Plasma scoring webbed along the heat sinks. The drive cage was warped by one impact that had not been absorbed by the armor foam. Reese crouched under a support rib with a light clench between his teeth. He tapped a plate with a wrench. The sound came back dull. "Not pretty," he said, "but I can get her to limp." "We need more than a limp," Alia said. "We go to Cervix 9 when we lift. We do not drift there." Arik ran his palm over the warped cage and grunted once. "We have a forge bay. We can print braces and a replacement for Conduit 3. The alloy will not match your spec. It will hold. If it does not, then you will know fast." "I prefer to know first," Alia said. He nodded. "That is why I said it." Lila stepped around a coil spool like she had grown up in corridors and crawl spaces. Her visor flicked numbers in a pale glow over her eyes. She touched the damaged conduit, but did not look at it. She looked at the hairline cracks that spread away from it into the frame. Her voice was quick. We will need a stress lattice, small pieces, interlock and bond with micro welds. If we print in the old titanium weave, it will flex and fail. I can change the pattern. Reese raised an eyebrow. You can rewrite a printer library that fast. I already started, she said. She did not blush at all. She handed him the slate. He whistled low. Alia watched that exchange with care. Lila was small and fast and bright. Reese smiled in a way that he saved for puzzles. It made him look younger. Alia logged the detail, then moved. We have 3 hours before I want a weapons test, Alia said. Drill teams Alpha and Bravo with me. Station defense will coordinate. This place draws fire. Someone saw us limp. You think they followed, Arik said. He did not make it a question. He rubbed at the oil on his wrist like he was thinking with his hands. I think Xenos raiders smell vulnerability, Alia said. We advertised. They will come to bite. He gave a short nod. Then we bite back. They set the work plan with the clean force of habit. Arik took structural. Lila took printer cues and lattice design. Reese took power regulation and the spine that would route juice to shields without overheating. 2 of Alia's crew took hull patch and suit checks. The rest prepped weapons and the ship's tactical grid. It was all muscle memory. It was all comfort and focus. The first alarm came early. Motion on the far approach, the station sensor tech said over the open channel. 4 fast contacts, no transponder. Color drained from the room lights to combat red. Halcyon shook off its sleep and showed teeth that were mostly scar and stubbornness. Gun turrets unfolded from pockets in the outer ring. The barrel linings were old but clean. Fresh scoring marked where someone had test fired this week. Volunteers ran, not in fear, but the way people run when they have decided they will stand. Author aside, because yes, I am going to talk while the bolts tighten. This is the moment I like. The part where everyone pretends to be surprised by the incoming fight, then admits they have been ready all along. Humans are very good at denial in peacetime and very good at logistics in war. The switch flips so fast it looks like magic. It is not. It is practice. Alia toggled the internal net. Aurelia to Halcyon. I have point defense online in 2 minutes. We can slot into your fire grid. Push your targeting solution and we will layer. Copy, Arik said. His voice did not rise. He sounded like a man reading out a maintenance checklist. Halcyon fire control online. We have rails 1 and 3 ready. 2 is in repair. Do not count on 2. We will not, Alia said. She glanced left. Tactical paint targets. Prioritize anything with a kinetic profile and anything that looks like a boarding can. Boarding cans, Reese muttered. Love those. Nothing says welcome like a steel drum full of regret. Lila slid into a seat that had not been offered and punched in a tie between the station sensors and the Aurelia suite. She did not ask for permission. Alia did not slap her hand away. Data flowed. The overlay sharpened. 4 raiders, wedge-shaped, engines bright with overburn. They were not here to posture. They were here to hit and grab. They are testing us, Alia said. Hold fire until they pass the first ring. The first ring was a scattered field of salvage. Old hull plates, broken docking booms, a halo of junk that Arik had never cleared because it did not hinder him, and it did hinder raiders. The incoming ships threaded the field like blades slipping through cloth. One clipped a plate and spun. The pilot corrected with ugly but effective thrust. A second ship fired a probe. The probe scythed through the debris, cut a path, then blew. That blast made a lane and also told Alia something important. They do not know the interior map, Alia said. No embedded beacon, no inside coordinator. They are working blind. It was not proof. It was confidence. She let her breath go long once. Then she gave the order. Weapons free. The first volley out of Halcyon rails was uneven. Rail 1 track true. Rail 3 dragged a hair left and arced metal shards into the flank of the third raider, but not the engine. The station shook with kick and pride. The Aurelia added her own reply. Twin-point defense banks spat white knives across the approach. One raider flashed and went cold. The other slid wide, then curved in. They spit plasma. Halcyon's shields took it with a crackle that made every tooth on the station ache. Eric, Alia said, your shields are thin at segment K. They are going to walk fire up that seam. We cannot shift power without overcooking 3 relays, Arik said. Unless we borrow from life support, Lila said. She did not look up. Her hands moved faster. She shoved a patch into the station grid that rerouted 5% of the air scrubber power for 20 seconds at a time. Pulse it. Only when they fire, the scrubbers will not notice that fast. Arik looked at her and almost smiled. Do it. Halcyon took the next volley with a surge. The seam held. Plasma splashed blue across the shield and bled away. The second raider veered hard. It deployed 2 cans. The cans tumbled end over end. They burned hot, then cold. They were not smart. They were not meant to be. They were thrown knives, Reese, Alia said. Paint those cans. On it, Aurelia tracked both and shot clean. One cable was shattered. The other kept coming. It struck the outer ring. It did not pierce armor. It stuck. Magnets bit down. Charges chewed. A hatch began to glow. Boarders, Eric said. His voice changed for the first time, a tight anger. He toggled the internal channel to his volunteers. Teams to Junction E, short lines, no hero runs. Alia did not hesitate. I am coming with a squad. You have a ship to keep alive, Eric said. I have a mission to Cervix 9, Alia said. If your station falls, then the mission dies here. I understand the order of operations. I am coming. He did not argue again. Dock Access 3, he said. Fastest path. Watch for the ladder well. It sticks on the way down. She was already moving. Boots hammered the deck. A 4-person team fell in behind her. Reese threw a last look at the power and followed. Lila looked at Arik. He gave a single nod. She grabbed a tool bandolier and ran. The corridor to Junction E was narrow and long. The walls hummed with shield transit. Alia kept her rifle tight against her shoulder and her mind on angles. Xenos boarders were not like human Marines. They did not clear methodically. They stormed. They relied on speed and the fear that speed created. The hatch blew inward in a perfect circle. Heat rolled down the hall. They came through in a line. Tall. Carapace like glass fused with iron. Blades on forearms sized for intimidation and cutting through thin doors. Helmets with opaque visors that hid whatever counted as eyes. They were beautiful in the way a storm is beautiful. Alia fired. The rifle crack was clean. The first boarder folded. The rest surged. Her team fired in disciplined bursts. Eric volunteers hit from the flank with compact pistols that spat slugs like tiny hammers. The Xenos line faltered, then split. One tried to climb the wall to bypass the choke. Its magnet boot skittered. It fell. Lila tossed a canister and yanked a tab. The canister popped into a cloud. Not smoke. Chaff. It ruined the Xeno suit sensors for 3 seconds. 3 seconds was a long time for someone like Alia. Push, she said. They pushed. The hall echoed with hard breath and harder choice. 2 boarders went down. A third locked blades with the forward volunteer. The blades slid and sparked. The volunteer stumbled. The boarder is reached to finish. Reese stepped in with a pry bar from his belt and hit the joint behind the knee. The boarder crashed. Lila shot the visor at point-blank range. The visor cracked like thin ice under a boot. The last boarder retreated toward the blown hatch. It held a disc in one hand. It slapped the disk against the threshold. The disk began to burn. Seal, Auric said. Now. Alia saw it. The disk was a slicer. It would cut the hatch lock from the outside. It would keep the door from resealing. She did not shoot the border. She shot the disk. The disk shattered. Fragments struck the border. It screamed in a voice too high to be human. It jumped back and vanished into the can, which fired a burst of attitude thrusters and spun off the hull. Hull is secure, Auric said. Good. I like this hallway. I was not ready to give it away. Alia checked her people. 2 wounded. Both could walk. Lila's hands shook for a second, then steadied. Reese clapped her shoulder once. Author aside, combat is always shorter than it feels and longer than you want. People ask for feelings. Here is a feeling. The click of a magazine locking in after being emptied. It sounds like a full lung of air. They got back to the bay in time to see the raiders cut off. 2 remained. They did not press. They circled once, firing in frustration, then ran. Halcyon guns spat at their tails. Aurelia tracked but did not chase. Fuel was a weapon now. They would save it for the main fight. Stand down to ready, Alia said. Refill magazines. Swap out heat-stressed barrels. Engines. Auric wiped sweat with an oil rag and looked at the drive cage. We can finish this in 2 hours if the printers do not hiccup. Lila hiccups, she said. Her mouth was a thin line of focus. She had set the cues and was now running handwells along the lattice with a tool that sang. Sparks fell like orange rain. Each spark meant 1 less failure point later. Reese checked the power routing with a hum. He had that face again. The one who said the puzzle was not beating him yet. He ran new cables like veins around the wounded places. He labeled each segment in black marker as if the ink itself added security. Alia allowed herself 1 minute behind a sealed door. She took a breath and let her shoulders drop, then raised them again. She looked at the small mirror in her kit and saw a woman with dark hair pulled tight in a steady gaze. She did not see fear, which meant it was there, crouched somewhere out of sight. She was fine with that. Fear can be trained. Fear can be told to sit and stay. She stepped back out. Report, she said. Station perimeter nominal, Tactical said. Local space is quiet. For now. We wounded, Alia asked. 2 light injuries at station side. 1 broken wrist, 1 burn. Both stable. Good. Auric approached with a data slate. His tone stayed level. We recorded the approach vectors. The raiders came from above the ecliptic. No sign they knew our docking pattern. No sign they knew your ship had the engine 2 failure. If there is a leak, then it is not on the open bands. Alia heard what he was saying without him saying it. If there is a leak, then it could be in her crew. She watched his eyes. He had not accused. He had simply presented a set of facts shaped like a wolf. We keep the channels tight, Alia said. Ship internal only. No personal calls, no private bands. Anyone who needs to say something says it to me. Reese glanced at her. The humor had gone from his mouth. He nodded once. Lila did not nod. She was too busy with the weld, but her jaw flexed. Auric cleared his throat. There is one more thing. We picked up a shadow on the sensor during the fight. It was faint. It did not move. It read like debris. Then it winked out. A mine, Reese said. Or a passive watcher, Alia said. Auric lifted a shoulder. I like your second idea better. If they are watching you, then they will be back in numbers. Then we give them something to watch, Alia said. We show a station busy with repairs. We show a ship with 1 engine masked. We show a schedule that says we will be here longer than we will. And when they come close to Conf Irm, we cut their eyes. Eric grinned slowly, slow. I can work with that. Author aside, yes, misdirection. War is a card trick where the stakes are oxygen. The trick always works better when your audience thinks they are the only smart ones in the room. They worked. Printers sang. Welders hissed. Cooling rigs blew cold air into hot metal. The Aurelia shuddered once as a brace locked into place. Lila flinched, then nodded to herself and kept going. Reese fed power to the shields and watched the heat bloom in the regulator and vanish into the new spine like a river taking a bend. Eric moved like a man with a list and a history with that list. Alia took a call from Cervix 9 that had finally tunneled through the noise. It was a single frame of video and a sentence. The frame showed a square cut in a city full of ash. The sentence was simple. "We are alive. For now." She stared at that pixelated square until the message timed out. Then she put her helmet on and walked the line one more time. When the next alarm sounded, it was not a rush of raiders. It was a pinprick on the outer rim, a quiet bloom that looked like nothing and meant everything. The Watcher had come back. It crept along the debris ring, wearing junk like a cloak. It moved in the exact parody of station drift. It was patient. "I see you," Alia said, not into the net, not to anyone, just to herself. She could already feel the shape of the trap she wanted. Not complicated. Complicated breaks. Simple kills. "Bring rails 1 and 3 to standby," she said. "On my mark only." Lila, Reese, lights off on the outer ring section Delta. "I want that Watcher hungry." The section went dark like a blink. The Watcher drifted closer by degrees. Halcyon held its breath. The Aurelia grid hummed like a cat that had found a sunbeam. "Mark," Alia said. Rails spat. The Watcher flickered and was gone. Bits of metal floated and turned. Something inside it sent one last squeal across a band no human used. Lila caught it on her slate by mistake. 3 syllables, no language, a pattern that pressed like a cold hand. She shivered and rubbed her arms without knowing why. Arik exhaled. That was tidy. "We are not done," Alia said, "but we are not blind." They went back to work with the focus that comes when the first test goes your way. The ship felt different under their hands now. Not healthy, not safe, but ready to move and ready to fight. Halcyon breathed easier for a minute. The volunteers laughed in short bursts at bad jokes. Reese told one that made Lila roll her eyes and not stop smiling. In the quiet slice between noise and more noise, Alia checked her crew logs. One entry was late, a minor thing, a tool checkout without a return. It was a note so small a lesser captain would have missed it or let it pass. She did not let it pass. She tagged it in her head. She said nothing yet. She did not like to accuse without a second data point. Cervix 9 waited. The Xenos would come again. And somewhere inside these corridors, a shadow watched that did not wear a cloak of junk. It wore a human face. The Aurelia hummed like a beast refusing to die. Fresh braces clamped the wounded drive cage. Heat sinks glowed with overworked coolant, and every weld carried the smell of scorched alloy. Yet she stood, patched together by human stubbornness. Alia walked the length of the bay with her hands behind her back, boots striking in sharp rhythm. Each clang told her the ship still had bones. Each spark told her those bones were healing. Reese crouched near the regulator's spine, muttering to himself. His sleeves were rolled, arms streaked with grease. He tapped his data pad with exaggerated care, as if daring the numbers to misbehave. "Look at that," he said. "She's drinking power smooth. No hiccup, no burp. Like she was never shot." "You flatter yourself," Alia said. "The Aurelia drinks because she knows we'll drag her into another storm. Ships don't lie." "Neither do captains," Reese replied with a grin that tried to hide the weight in his eyes. Alia kept moving. Confidence was currency. If she showed doubt, the crew would hoard theirs. She would not let that happen. Not here, not before Cervix 9. Halcyon Station was less optimistic. Arik Jansen leaned against a rail, datapad balanced in his palm. His voice came over the intercom, steady but edged. "Scans show a larger signature on long range. Too big for raiders. Could be a carrier. The bridge crew froze. Lila looked up from her console, lips pressed thin. How long? Alia asked. 18 hours if it burns steadily. Less if it pushes. Then we have less, Alia said. The words dropped like a hammer. Everyone understood. When predators smelled blood, they sprinted. Preparation became ritual. Halcyon's volunteers strapped into exosuits patched with duct tape and old pride. They ran drills through narrow corridors, shot at holographic silhouettes, shouted numbers until their throats cracked. Aurelia's crew synchronized with them, mesh grids layered over mesh grids, human stubbornness stacking like armor. Lila worked without pause. She rewrote printer cues, fused parts with precision welds, and recalibrated shield lattices. Her small frame darted between consoles, hair damp with sweat, visor glowing. Reese shadowed her sometimes, muttering jokes that barely disguised how closely he watched her hands. There was more than trust there, something quieter, unspoken. Alia noticed. She noticed everything. Night never fell on Halcyon. The lights dimmed to half, the hum softened, but the void outside never slept. Alia stood in the observation deck, staring at the stars. She let her jaw unclench, just for a moment. A voice joined her. Arix, you don't trust my station. I don't trust anything, Alia said. Good, he replied. Neither do I. They stood in silence. Metal creaked. Beyond the glass, debris drifted like ghosts. You've fought the Xenos before, Arix said. Twice. And you lived. Barely. He nodded, like that was enough. In truth, it was. Survivors carried a weight that no words could measure. At cycle dawn, alarms flared again. This time it wasn't an attack. It was a message. The same faint signal from Cerbix 9 had returned. Stronger now, pushing through static. The hollow projector flickered and formed a broken image. A woman's face, half lit by fire. This is Counselor Marin of Cerbix 9, the voice rasped. We are besieged. Xenos walk our streets. They drag civilians into the mines. If anyone can hear this, the feed stuttered, cracked, and died. The mess hall went silent. Volunteers clenched fists. The crew stared at the floor. Even Reese lost his words. Alia spoke into the void. We hear you, she turned to her people, and we are coming. But she knew the truth. They would never reach Cerbix 9 alive if the traitor inside her walls kept feeding the enemy. She reviewed the logs again in her cabin. The tool checkout from earlier still hung in her mind like a thorn. Small, almost nothing. But sabotage always began small. She pulled crew manifests, maintenance schedules, and comm records. Patterns emerged. One crew member is always near damage reports before they spread. One presence is uncomfortably consistent in critical moments. Alia did not name the shadow yet, but she circled it in her thoughts, sharp and deliberate. Authors aside, this is where I lean back, grin, and remind you that paranoia isn't paranoia when ships explode in a vacuum. Someone is selling secrets. And the best part? The audience knows it. The crew suspects it. But no one dares point the finger first. Not yet. The next 12 hours became a race. Arix Forge spat braces that Lila's welders fused in glowing arcs. Reese rerouted coolant until the deck plates froze under his boots. Volunteers hammered ammo crates open, checked rail slugs by hand, and prayed to gods of their own invention. Everywhere Alia went, she felt eyes on her. Loyal eyes, tired eyes, and one pair that lingered too long. By the time the enemy carrier breached sensor range, the Aurelia was whole enough to fly. Not healed, but standing. And Alia Thorne, with jaw set and gaze hard, was ready to gamble everything on a broken station, a patched ship, and a crew where one of them might already have a knife aimed at her back. The carrier arrived like a mountain sliding across the stars. Its silhouette swallowed whole sectors of the viewport, jagged and deliberate, hull plates blacker than the void itself. Smaller raiders poured from its belly, dozens at first, then scores. They moved in loose swarms, confident, hungry. Halcyon shuddered under the sight alone. The volunteers on the gun decks muttered prayers. One whispered, "We've seen wolves. This is the pack." Alia did not flinch. She stood at the center of Aurelia's bridge, spine straight, voice calm. "Status. Shields online," Tactical said. "Engines stable but redlined. Weapons? Rails charge. Point defense hot. And the station?" Arek's voice cut through. "We're live. Ready to bleed with you." Alia nodded once. "Then let's show them what bleeding looks like." The first wave came hard. Plasma fire streaked through the void. A rain of blue-white lances. Halcyon's shields flared, cracking like glass struck by hammers. Aurelia answered with precise bursts, point defense batteries cutting down raiders before they could spread. Rail slugs streaked from the station, molten trails carving into the void. One raider split clean in half, its wreckage spinning in silence. But for every kill, 3 more pressed in. Reese cursed under his breath. "It's like shooting at a tide." Leela didn't look up. Her fingers danced across the console, rerouting shield lattices faster than the impacts came. Then "Stop missing." The ship shook again. Warning klaxons screamed. "Direct hit! Port side!" Engineering reported. Alia braced against the rail. Her voice was iron. "Seal it. Keep us in the fight." On Halcyon's outer ring, volunteers fired until their rifles glowed. Every shot echoed with desperation. Arek moved among them, calm, correcting stances, swapping overheated barrels with steady hands. His voice cut through chaos. "Aim for the seams. Waste nothing. Every slug is gold." The Xenos pressed harder. Boarding cans spat from the raiders, tumbling through debris, magnet clamps sparking. Alia saw them on the overlay, dots of red closing too fast. Boarding pods inbound. Vector? Everywhere. Authors aside. This is the moment I love to write, the knife's edge. Ships holding together by sweat, crews running on grit, and the audience screaming, "They can't win this," which is exactly when you flip the board. But not yet. You have to let the hopelessness soak in first. The first can struck Aurelia's hull with a thud that rattled bulkheads. Sparks cascaded as the pod's drills began to chew through armor. Another slammed into Halcyon's docking ring, cutting sparks like fireworks. "Teams to breach points," Alia ordered. She grabbed her rifle and moved. Commanders don't usually leave the bridge, but Alia Thorne was not usual. Reese caught her eye as she passed. "You plan to fight them yourself? Do you plan to stop me?" He grinned despite the fear. "Not a chance." They ran to get her. The corridor shook as the first breach cut open. A Xenos warrior surged through, tall and armored in a fused carapace. Blades grown into its limbs. Its screech rattled teeth. Alia's rifle barked. The warrior fell, black ichor spraying across the bulkhead. Another followed, then 3 more. The hall became chaos. Plasma bursts, human shouts, alien howls. Leela arrived late, visor glowing, hands shaking only for a moment before steadying. She dropped a chaff canister, static crackling through the corridor. The Xenos staggered, sensors blinded. Human rifles did the rest. "Clear," someone shouted. "Not clear," Alia snapped. "They'll come again." And they did. Another can strike. Another hatch screamed under drills. Halcyon's volunteers fought in stairwells and junctions. Every corridor a battleground. Hours blurred. The carrier held position, launching wave after wave. The station's shields dimmed to embers, patched by desperate reroutes. Aurelia's drives ran hot enough to glow. Every victory was small, fragile. Then came the twist. "Captain," Tactical whispered, almost afraid to speak. "The carrier, it isn't firing. It's just waiting." Alia's eyes narrowed. She understood. The smaller waves weren't the attack. They were the distraction. Scan their aft sections, she ordered. Readouts flickered, and then everyone saw it. Massive cylinders detaching from the carrier's spine, each the size of a freighter. They weren't troop pods. They were engines, digging engines, retrofitted for war. They're not here to take the station, Alia said. Her voice dropped hard. They're here to harvest it, same as Cervix 9. The bridge went cold. Eric's voice broke the silence. If they anchor those drills into Halcyon's core, the station's done. Then we don't let them anchor, Alia said. Hello, bring us in close. We cut the drills before they deploy. That's suicide, Reese muttered. Alia leveled her gaze on him. Only if we fail. The Aurelia roared forward, patched engines straining, shields sparking like fire across her hull. Halcyon's turrets spat every slug they had left, carving a path. Volunteers screamed defiance over open channels. And in the dark belly of the station, unseen by all, one human hand keyed a private comm. A single pulse, almost nothing, was sent to the enemy. A traitor's whisper. The Aurelia plunged into the swarm like a blade. Raiders scattered, too slow to predict a human ship willing to charge rather than retreat. Plasma bursts flared along her shields, white sparks tearing across hull plates. Alia braced in her command chair, jaw set. She rode the violence like it was hers to command. Target the drill carriers, she snapped. Locked, Tactical answered. Fire! Rail slugs tore through the void. The first drill cylinder cracked open, molten shards spinning outward. The second shuddered but held, engines pushing it closer to Halcyon's spine. They're still moving, Lila said, voice tight. Then hit them harder, Alia growled. The Aurelia spat again, cannons roaring. Another cylinder ruptured, a slow explosion blooming like a dying sun. But more came. Too many. Halcyon's deck shook as raiders pressed their attack. Volunteers fired until their rifles overheated, then switched to sidearms, then fists if they had to. Arik strode among them, wrench in one hand, pistol in the other, fixing broken turrets even as plasma bolts screamed past his head. He shouted orders that were more like promises. Hold this line and the station holds with you. Every corridor smelled of smoke and hot metal. Air recyclers screamed under strain. Lights flickered, cutting battles into strobe-lit nightmares. On Aurelia's bridge, Reese muttered around a half-crushed ration bar. Captain, I've got coolant temps spiking. If we keep this up, the drive goes from patch to slag. Then keep it up until it breaks, Alia said. Reese stared at her for a beat. Then he grinned, humor cutting through exhaustion. Knew you'd say that. He dove back into his console, rerouting power with reckless grace. Lila worked beside him, hands flying, visor glowing with numbers. She leaned close, whispering without looking at him. If the drive goes, none of us live. You know that, right? Reese flashed her a sideways smile. Then let's not let it go. The second drill carrier drew near. Its engines burned steadily, shields shrugging off scattered fire. If it reached Halcyon's core, the station would be split open. Alia rose. Prepare a strike team. We're taking it from the inside. The bridge froze. Boarding an enemy carrier was suicide. But no one argued, not when their captain's voice was iron. Reese stood first. I'll go. Lila followed without hesitation. Me too. Alia nodded once. Arik, keep the station alive. The rest, gear up. They launched in a shuttle, small and fast, a flicker against the void. Raiders gave chase, but Aurelia cut them down with covering fire, point defense blazing. The shuttle spun through debris, engines screaming. The drill carrier loomed ahead, a slab of metal bristling with claws. Its docking bay yawned open, hungry. Brace, Alia ordered. The shuttle slammed into the bay, skidding across the deck. Sparks cascaded. The hatch blew. Xenos waited. The fight was chaos. Warriors surged with blades and screeches. Human rifles barked, every shot echoing in steel caverns. Reese fought like a man born in alleys, wrench in one hand, pistol in the other. Lila darted between cover, setting traps, her small frame moving faster than eyes could follow. Alia cut through the melee with brutal precision, rifle butt smashing jaws, blade flashing when ammo ran dry. Her black hair was slick with sweat, uniform torn, but her presence never faltered. Every order she barked carried weight. Every move turned chaos into purpose. They carved a path toward the engine core. Authors aside, this is where the audience leans forward. Human Marines against aliens twice their size, in the belly of a ship that should have crushed them. The trick isn't to make the humans invincible. It's to show how sheer will and dirty ingenuity turn impossible into inevitable. They reached the core chamber. The engine roared, a sun caged in steel. Energy pulsed through conduits the size of houses. At its heart, the drill waited, claws poised to bite into Halcyon's skin. Lila sprinted to the console, visor flashing. I can overload it, but once it starts, we have minutes before the whole ship goes. How many minutes? Alia demanded. 3, maybe 2. Plenty, Alia said. Reese laughed out of breath. You're insane. Correct, Alia replied. Lila's fingers flew. Sparks leapt from the console. Sirens wailed in alien tones. The drill shuddered, lights flickering. Done, she gasped. It's primed. Alia turned to her team. Fall back. But the Xenos weren't done. A massive warrior stepped into the chamber, armor thicker, blades longer. Its roar shook the deck. Behind it, more poured in. Reese spat. Guess they don't like us breaking their toys. Alia raised her rifle. Then we break them too. The chamber erupted again. Gunfire, steel, alien howls. The humans fought with everything left. Lila ducked under a blade, jamming a charge into a joint. Reese slammed his wrench into a visor. Alia drove her knife under a carapace seam, twisting until the warrior fell. The core lights shifted from white to red. Overload countdown. 2 minutes, Lila screamed. Alia cut down another warrior, blood hot on her hands. She locked eyes with her team. Move, now! They ran. The shuttle bay was a storm of fire, Xenos pouring in from every hatch. Aurelia's guns fired through the hull breach, clearing a path. The team dove into the shuttle, engines roaring. The carrier behind them glowed brighter, brighter, then tore itself apart in a silent bloom. The Aurelia caught them in her shadow, shields flaring to shield the retreat. Halcyon's crew roared over comms, cheers mixing with disbelief. One drill down, one victory clawed from the void. But Alia knew it wasn't over. The carrier still loomed. And somewhere, hidden in human skin, the traitor still whispered. The explosion still burned across the stars when Aurelia turned her prow back toward Halcyon. The destroyed drill carrier drifted as debris, a new constellation of fire in the void. But the battle was far from finished. On the tactical overlay, the enemy carrier remains massive and immovable. More raiders swarmed out of its hull, angry hornets spilling from a broken nest. And now, with one drill ship lost, the Xenos shifted tactics. Their swarms tightened, their fire focused. Captain, they're hunting us, Tactical warned. Alia didn't blink. Then let them hunt. Her voice steadied everyone, but she knew the truth. Aurelia was bleeding. Hull plating buckled, engines strained, shields dimmed with every hit. They were buying time, nothing more. Inside Halcyon, chaos stretched thin. Volunteers fought in smoke-choked corridors, boots slipping on scorched metal. Arik shouted over the comms, voice harsh. We've lost turret 3. Junction E is breached again. Get me reinforcements or we lose the ring. Alia toggled her mic. Hold. Reinforcements inbound. She turned to her squad. Reese, Lila, you're with me. Reese groaned. Didn't we just survive one suicide run? Apparently you're good at them, Alia shot back. They sprinted through Halcyon's inner decks, weapons hot. Smoke hung heavy, and lights flickered. At Junction E, Xenos poured through a breached hatch, their blades carving sparks from bulkheads. Volunteers struggled to hold the line, pistols clattering empty. "Clear me a lane," Alia ordered. Rid grinned and hurled a plasma charge down the corridor. The explosion lit the hall white. Xenos staggered. Alia surged forward, rifle cutting them down one by one. Lila ducked behind her, planting jammers that fried alien comms, turning their coordination into noise. By the time the smoke cleared, the hall was theirs. Volunteers panted in relief. Auric's voice crackled back over comms. "About time, but victory came with a cost." Reports streamed in. 2 more breaches, 1 reactor conduit failing, half the volunteers already dead or wounded. Halcyon was breaking. Alia stood in the ruined corridor, sweat streaking soot across her face. She spoke low, almost to herself. "We can't keep this up." Reese heard her. For once, he didn't crack a joke. "Then what's the play?" Authors aside, this is the "oh my god" moment. Everything looks lost. The station's falling apart, the Aurelia is barely flying, and the enemy still outnumbers them 10-1. This is the point where the audience thinks they can't win, which is when you twist the knife, then flip the table. The twist came from Lila. She stared at the schematics flickering across her visor, eyes wide. "The carrier, it's not just waiting. It's charging something." Alia turned. "What?" "A super weapon. Massive power spike in its forward spine. If it fires, it won't need drills. Halcyon will be dust." The bridge confirmed seconds later. Energy readings spiked. Red lines climbing. The room went still. No one spoke. Finally, Alia said, "Then we don't wait to die. We strike." Reese barked a laugh, half mad. "Strike that? Captain, we barely survived a drill ship." Alia's gaze cut through him. "We don't need to kill it. We just need to blind it." "Explain," Auric demanded. Alia pointed to the schematics. "That weapon needs targeting arrays. They're exposed, forward section. Small but fragile. If we cripple them, the gun's worthless." "Silence, then," Auric said. "That's a miracle shot." Alia's jaw set. "Miracles are my specialty." They moved fast. Aurelia spun out from Halcyon, shields flaring, every cannon primed. Raiders swarmed, but the ship cut through. Patched engines screaming in protest. "Targeting arrays locked," Tactical said. "Fire all rails," Alia ordered. The ship roared. Slugs streaked across the void, glowing hot. One array shattered in a blossom of sparks. Another flickered but held. "Again!" Alia shouted. Rails reloaded. Fired. The second array broke apart. The weapon's charge faltered, energy bleeding into the void. Halcyon shook as the carrier's weapons sputtered, then died. A roar of cheers erupted across the comms, but the victory soured almost immediately. From Aurelia's bridge, Lila gasped. Her visor lit with a new signal, an encoded transmission, routed not from the carrier, but from inside Halcyon. Reese leaned over her shoulder. His smile died. "That's human code." The traitor had spoken again. The encoded pulse hung on Lila's visor like a brand. Short, precise, human. She stripped filters, cracked layers, and found the impossible, a direct handshake with the Xenos carrier. Her throat went dry. "They know our shield rotations." "They shouldn't know that," Reese cursed. "So someone's feeding them live updates from in here." Alia didn't look away from the tactical map. Her voice was ice. "Then we stop them before the next wave arrives." The carrier responded faster than expected. Raiders tightened formation, weaving fire into a net. Every gap Aurelia cut open closed instantly. Shots raked her hull, slamming armor plates into scrap. One plasma bolt bit deep enough to light the bridge in emergency red. "Shields at 20%, Tactical shouted. Divert power from non-essential systems, Alia ordered. Reese barked a laugh. Newsflash, Captain. Everything is essential right now. Then make it work, Alia snapped. He did. His hands flew across controls, pulling juice from habitat rings, even dimming lights to funnel every watt into shields. The bridge went half dark, crew shadows moving like ghosts. Meanwhile, Halcyon burned. Decks were gutted, hull plating stripped by boarding cans. Auric fought like a man who'd never had the option of surrender. His wrench was red with heat, his pistol empty, but his voice roared over comms. Hold them! You let one alien past you. You answer to me after. Volunteers bled in corridors but didn't break. They were steel on borrowed time. Alia studied the map. One drill ship remained, clawing toward Halcyon, and the carrier, crippled weapon or not, was drawing closer. If it closed range, the station was finished. We cut the last drill, Alia said. Then we buy Halcyon time. Reese stared. Buy it how? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. They all understood. Aurelia was going to stand between the carrier and the station. Authors aside, this is the moment to lean into the hopeless. You pile it on, bleeding ship, dying station, outnumbered crew, and then you light the fuse of human defiance. The audience has to believe there's no chance, and that's when you show them why humans are terrifying. The shuttle run began the same as before. Fast, reckless, suicidal. Alia, Reese, and Lila slammed into the last drill carrier with a crunch that rattled teeth. They burst from the hatch into fire. Xenos waited in layered ranks. Blades gleamed, plasma bolts streaked. The humans fought like cornered animals. Reese broke a warrior's jaw with his wrench. Lila jammed a jammer into a console, frying sensors until sparks spat across the deck. Alia carved forward, rifle cutting clean lines. They reached the core. It thrummed with power, claws already digging into Halcyon's outer ring. If it latched fully, nothing would pull it free. Lila's visor streamed warnings. This one's shielded. I can't overload it clean. Options? Alia demanded. Only one. Manual detonation. From inside the core chamber. The silence was sharp. Reese spat blood. That's suicide. Lila didn't meet his eyes. It's math. They didn't have time to argue. The Xenos stormed again, heavier this time. The chamber echoed with roars and steel. Reese fired until his rifle clicked dry, then swung it like a club. Lila ducked under blades, setting charges along conduits, her hands steady even as her chest heaved. Alia fought at the front, knife flashing, every motion precise. She cut down another warrior, boots slipping in ichor. Charge is set, Lila shouted. Her visor flared red. 30 seconds. They ran, back through corridors alive with fire, chased by howls. The shuttle bay was chaos, Xenos flooding in, claws sparking against bulkheads. Alia threw herself into the pilot's chair. Reese hauled Lila into a seat, blood dripping from his arm. The shuttle roared free just as the charges blew. The drill ship folded inward, fire ripping it apart. The explosion rolled across the void, shock waves slamming into Aurelia's hull. Halcyon's comms erupted with cheers again. 2 drills down. The weapon blinded. The carrier staggered. For the first time, survival looked possible. But then the twist landed. Captain, Lila whispered, visor still glowing. That transmission, it wasn't just coordinates. It was access codes from Aurelia. Someone on our ship handed them the keys. Reese froze. His face, usually alive with smirks, went flat. Who? Lila shook her head. I can't tell. They scrubbed the logs, but it's one of us. On the bridge, Alia stared into the void. The carrier still loomed. Halcyon still burned. And inside her own crew, a traitor still breathed. She spoke low, steady. Then we end the enemy outside. And when the fire stops, we find the one inside. Authors aside, this is the gut punch moment. The audience just saw the humans pull off the impossible, And instead of relief, you twist it, because betrayal from within is the cut that hurts the most. And Alia knows. The final battle isn't just against the Xenos. It's against whoever is hiding in her ranks, waiting to finish the job from the inside. The Aurelia drifted back toward Halcyon, scarred but unbroken. Behind her, two shattered drill ships spun as burning wreckage. The Xenos carrier loomed, still immense, still dangerous, but its weapon arrays dark, its drills destroyed. For the first time since the battle began, the field was quiet. Too quiet. Alia stood on the bridge, one hand gripping the rail. The silence pressed harder than the gunfire had. Status! Shields at 11%, Tactical replied. Hull integrity. Patchwork. Engines are unstable, but ho-ding. Station? Arek's voice crackled through, tired but firm. Halcyon's alive, barely. We've sealed breaches. My people are counting bodies. His words landed heavily. They had won a reprieve, not a victory. The carrier didn't retreat. It drifted closer, massive shadow crawling across the viewport. Its lights pulsed faintly, like the slow heartbeat of something too big to kill. Reese leaned against his console, bandaged arm hanging limp. They're waiting for something. Lila shook her head, visor glowing faintly. Not waiting. Listening. Alia turned sharply. To what? She hesitated. To whoever sent those codes. The bridge went still. Authors aside. And here we are, the knife's twist. The outer battle is won, but the real fight is still in the room. It's classic Scalzi energy. Paranoia wrapped in gallows humor, a captain forced to turn her eyes inward while the enemy lurks just beyond the glasses. The voice cut the silence. Lock every comm channel. No transmissions, no data leaks. Anyone who tries, I want it flagged instantly. Yes, Captain, Lila said, already rerouting systems. Reese studied her, brow furrowed. You sure about this? What if the traitor's one of ours sitting right here? Alia met his gaze. Then they'll know I'm watching. The carrier moved again, slow, deliberate. Its prow turned toward Aurelia and Halcyon both. It wasn't retreating, it was aligning. Tactical's voice cracked. They're going to ram. For a heartbeat, no one breathed. Ramming wasn't war, it was annihilating. Alia's jaw tightened. All batteries, every slug we have left. Aim for its engines. Captain, do it! The Aurelia roared, rails spitting their last. Halcyon joined, turrets hammering. Slugs tore into the carrier's flank. Armor buckled, fires bloomed. Still, it came. Impact in 1 minute, Tactical whispered. Then came the betrayal. Aurelia's lights flared, then died. Systems went black. Consoles dark. Engines silent. The ship floated dead in space. Sabotage, Reese hissed. Someone just cut the heart out of her. Lila slammed her visor against the console, fingers flying. The command came from inside the ship. Someone triggered a full systems kill. On the viewport, the carrier grew larger, closer. Inevitable stood in the dark, face lit only by the faint glow of emergency panels. We're not finished, she said, her voice cut through fear like steel. Reese, manual bypass. Lila, get me fire control back. We don't need everything. We just need one shot. They moved. Reese dove under his console, sparks flying as he ripped panels out with his bare hands. Lila rewrote codes so fast her visor blurred. Sweat streaked her face, jaw clenched. 30 seconds, Tactical gasped. The carrier filled the stars. Reese? Alia demanded. Engines are mine again, he grunted. But she won't like it. Lila. Guns hot. One volley. That's all we need. Alia's eyes burned. Target the core. Fire! The Aurelia screamed back to life. Rails thundered one last time. Slugs ripped into the carrier's belly, tearing through its overheating reactors. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the void lit like a second sun. The carrier split apart, fire blooming outward, shock wave rolling across the stars. Debris hammered Halcyon's shields. rattled Aurelia's hull, but the monster was gone. Silence followed. Real silence. No alarms. No howls. Just the ragged breathing of survivors. Halcyon cheered. Volunteers screamed triumph into the comms. Reese slumped against his console, laughing breathlessly. Lila sank into her chair, visor dimming, eyes wide with disbelief. Alia stood tall, though her knees trembled. She spoke low, almost a whisper. Cerbix 9 still waits. The bridge quieted. They all knew the battle wasn't over. This was only the first step. Later in the captain's cabin, Alia stared at the system logs. One entry blinked red. The kill command that had gutted Aurelia at the worst possible moment. She traced it back. The encryption was human, deliberate. Someone she trusted had nearly ended them all. She whispered into the dark, "When I find you, I'll end you myself." Her reflection in the viewport stared back, eyes hard, face shadowed. Captain, survivor, hunter. A author's aside closing this arc. That's the beat where you let the audience breathe. Explosion, survival, then a whisper of the knife still twisting. They feel relief, but not safety, because they know what Alia knows. The war outside is brutal, but the betrayal inside will cut deepest. And that, my friends, is how you keep them hooked for the next fight.